Welcome to David Copperfield's novel. Written by Charles Dickens. Summarized and prepared by Walaa Samir. Audio recorded by AI technology. Chapter 5. My first half year at school. It was still the summer holiday when David was sent to Salem House School, a boarding school near London. He spent several weeks there alone before the students' arrival. They were friendly with him, but when he met J. Steerforth, who was older than David at least 6 years, only then, other students considered him a good student. When Steerforth met him the day before school started, he seemed to like him. He even told him,
"I'll do the best I can for you."
David heard stories about the masters and Mr. Creakle, the headmaster. He was the sternest and most severe of the masters. He loved attacking boys with his cane, especially the fat ones. Steerforth said that he was ignorant whom Mr. Creakle had never touched before, because, as David heard, Mr. Creakle's daughter was in love with Steerforth. As he had a nice voice, a fine face, curly hair, and an easy manner. David met Mr. Creakle for the first time on the first morning of school. He entered the schoolroom and there was a silence. He said,
"Boys, come fresh to your lessons because I come fresh to punish you with my cane."
Although Steerforth protected David from anyone, he couldn't stop Mr. Creakle, who was severe with him. One day, Tungay, Mr. Creakle's assistant, told David that he had some visitors. He was worried that they could be the Murdstones. Then, he thought it could be his mother. When he went to the visitors' room, he began to sob. It was Mr. Peggotty and Ham. David was pleased to see them. He asked them about his mother and Peggotty. Mr. Peggotty said they were all right. He brought him seafood to eat. They were talking about Emily when Steerforth came into the room and David introduced him to the visitors. When they left, he and the other boys had a great supper that night. The rest of the half-year passed with difficulty. Cold mornings and cold classrooms, they ate boiled meat, roast meat, bread, and butter. Books were dirty with the marks of tears, caning, haircutting, and a lot of study hours. When it was holiday time, David was afraid that nobody wanted him back at home. Then Steerforth told him that he would go back home and he was now inside the coach going home. The questions in this chapter are: answer the following questions. 1. Why was David sent to a boarding school? Because he couldn't learn his lessons well because Mr. and Ms. Murdstone were attending. Mr. Murdstone beat David with his stick. David bit his hand while he was hitting him. He wanted to punish him severely. So, he sent him to a Salem House School during holiday time. It was a bad school where David spent a bad time. 2. Mr. Creakle was a bad example of a teacher. Explain. He was ignorant. He liked beating boys, especially the fat ones. On the first day at school, he threatened to cane the children if they didn't come fresh to their lessons. He was more like a soldier in a battle than a teacher at school. 3. Salem House School was not a good place for learning. Explain. It was a bad school. Its headmaster was very cruel and liked beating boys. The building was dull. The classrooms were cold. The books were old and dirty with marks of caning, haircutting, and tears. There was a bad smell of ink everywhere. 4. Who was David's friend at school? How useful was he for him? Steerforth was David's friend at school. He could protect him. Nobody dared to annoy him, but he couldn't protect him from Mr. Creakle. 5. Who visited David at school? Mr. Peggotty and Ham came to visit David at Salem House School. They brought him a huge amount of seafood which Mrs. Gummidge had boiled. Comment on the following quotation. 1. Come fresh to your lessons, because I will come fresh to cane you. These words were said by Mr. Creakle to the boys in Salem House School. Mr. Creakle was a bad example of a headmaster. He used to beat the children with his cane. He came to talk to the boys on the first day of school. He talked to them in a cruel way. He beat David with his cane. He told them to come fresh to their lessons and to study well, because he would cane them with his stick. This reveals that Mr. Creakle is a cruel man. See you in the next chapters. If this content is beneficial to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Bye.